This is Pete Saldana. I'm going to be going over some information regarding the Wyatt. We have the Wechsler Individual Assessment Test. The validity of this test, it's a normative sample. It's they used a population of 2,775 students, and the reliabilities scale here is 80%, except for listening comprehension and sentence completion, which are 75 and 79% respectively. In the validity area, the intercorrelations range from 43% to 93%. So that's the proof that was needed to get this test to be used in the schools today. It's also used for students who are age 4 through 19 and 11 months. There are several tests in here. I'm going to demonstrate one of them, and before I do that, I want to say if you follow the instructions carefully, you'll find that it's a fairly simple test to administer. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the reading comprehension, grade level 2. Okay, we have early reading skills and reading comprehension. So if you look on the top of the booklet here, there's a you have a start points and you have stop points depending on the grade level. The start point, so I'm going to go with grade 2. The start point is item 5. The stop point is after item 24. So item 5, I'll give you an example here. Which animals can students bring to school on pet day? Okay, and you're gonna go ahead and the answer that they're gonna give is dogs, cats, and birds. For a full answer, dogs and cats for a 2-point answer, and then for don't know, say they don't know anything about it, then it's 0. Okay. Now, what's important in this test is you have a raw score. You add up your zeros, your ones, and your DKs, and then you go ahead and tallying them up. You get a raw score. You plug that into the software, and once you plug that into the software, what you're going to do is you're going to get a real number that you can use to influence the instruction or interventions that you're doing. You also have other things such as this discontinue rule. So they'll say after the student has made 4 errors, discontinue the test and stop at that point, and that's the highest achievement that they've reached. So some other things, you have a reverse rule, a discontinue rule, timing, repetitions, recording, and scoring. Those things are also very important to pay attention to. Something that would make this test not valid is for, of course, to give the answers to the student, or to not administer the test appropriately. So only read what is implied in bold print. The small print is just for your information. It's to aid you while you're testing, but it's not what you say to the student. Okay. So I'll give you an example here in the early reading skills of that. Which group makes the dir sound like in drop? Okay. So they're going to point to, when you show them the drop, the spelling, they're going to point to the DR. Okay, but you can't point to it, and you can't also read this subprint. Point to the word green, but do not read it aloud. So that's for your information. So as long as you follow the bold print when you're testing, and then mind the smaller print, you'll be okay while administering this test. Other than that, you have a response booklet, and in the next video I'll go into more detail about how this stuff works. But there's your validity and reliability, the do's and don'ts, and a little bit of the population that the test was administered on. Hi, this is Pete Saldana, sped 533. I'm going to be going over the Wyatt 3 test today, and the Wyatt 3 test is the latest and greatest in the series of Wyatt tests. These tests are used to determine a student's age-based or grade-based level of learning. It's also used to determine if a student has a discrepancy in a certain area. Maybe they're testing high and their achievement in class is low, or vice versa. So anyhow, the Wyatt 2 has several things that come with it. You have the examiner's manual. The examiner's manual has a wealth of knowledge. There's a lot of stuff in here. Among some of the things are interpreting scores. So you have composite scores, standard scores. So this will guide you through, for the most part, any questions you may have about the test itself. The test also comes with a record form. This is what you're going to use to record the data while you're testing. So as you're going through and asking questions to the students, you're going to be writing down the information here. You have a response booklet. This is for the reading and the math portion and the writing portion. Another thing that I should mention is this test needs to be done in order. So you have listening comprehension, early reading skills, reading comprehension, math problem solving, and these all need to go in order. So the test is designed in such a way that you need to go from top to bottom with this test. The test booklets are about $4 each, so try to use them sparingly. The stimulus book, this is the book for reading, receptive vocabulary, oral discourse comprehension, early reading skills, reading comprehension, math problem solving, and expressive vocabulary. And it's pretty neat. It's actually designed so that you have the student reading a portion to you or testing on a certain page, and you may have cues in the booklet to tell you exactly how to do that. And this book actually, what's different from the Wyatt 3 and the Wyatt 2 is the Wyatt 3 uses both sides of these pages, so this book is a lot less thick, but you may have trouble finding specific locations in the book, so you might want to use little sticky notes on here so that you know where certain things are, because the book does use both sides of the page, so make sure and make note of that. You have a pseudo word card, an oral reading fluency booklet. So these are stories that the student is going to go through and test on. You have your scoring workbook, and this one is used for writing. So pretty much that's about it. The Wyatt 3. I know the Wyatt 2 had a testing base of over 5,000 students, so the validity of this test is fairly well documented. There's a wealth of information on the internet, but upon doing some research, I found that the testing base was 5,000 students, which is huge. So I'm going to give you an example of how we use this test. So these are grade-based tests, or age-based, I guess you could say. So if they're in the first grade, you're going to go over here to your composite score summary, and then you're going to have subtests. So listening comprehension breaks it down from pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, all the way on up to 12th grade and up. So if you were testing a student, so basically you'd point to the question here on the book. So you'd ask a question. This one happens to be a question: how many different ways are there to arrange 4 books on a shelf? And the student would answer. Whether they answer correctly or not, you'd go ahead and write in your scorebook correct or not correct. Another thing that's really important while you're doing this test is you want to make sure and look at the starting point, the discontinue rule, the timing rule, and the repetitions rule. Also recording and scoring. So then for the starting point, it's going to tell you, okay, for example, pre-kindergarten through 12th grade, you're going to start at item 1. Okay, for listening comprehension. The discontinue rule on this test, and it may vary from subtest to subtest, but you have it says discontinue rule, discontinue after 4 consecutive scores of 0. So if you're testing a student and they get 4 consecutive zeros for a score, okay, you're going to stop at that point. That's what the discontinue rule means. The discontinue rule can change from test to test. Timing, you're going to allow sufficient timing for the students to make their responses. Repetitions and item prompts may be needed. And as far as if a student says something, say an answer, and it's not exactly what you're looking for, exactly what the test says. Okay, the test has a solid answer, a right or a wrong answer. If the student states an incorrect answer and then corrects themselves and does so within an acceptable amount of time, which is in the manual, you can accept that, the latter answer. So other than that, there's following the directions is the most important thing I found here with this test. As long as you read the directions first, read everything that's in bold or highlighted, that's also really important. And then you actually, when you're done with the test, you end up with a raw score. You can turn that raw score into a composite score. The composite score can tell you a wealth of different things, where the student needs help, where they're falling behind, or where they're progressing. So there's several uses for this testing kit. Thank you.